Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today we are going to study the interpretation of Ustaz Hamiduddin Farahi regarding Surah Kausar. As you all know, most of us have memorized this surah by heart. This is the shortest surah of the Quran. It consists of just 3 verses. However, it is one of the most difficult surahs vis-a-vis its interpretation. And one of the reasons for this is that the word Kausar, which is mentioned in this surah in the opening verse, is something which has posed a lot of problems for our mufassirun, or our exegetes, and if we count the interpretations of this word or the connotation of this word, they are well over 30 that you can count in our tafsir books. And hence this is something which has become a nagging question as to what exactly is meant by Kausar. Now, those of you who are aware of Ustaz Hamiduddin Farahi's approach and the way he looks at Quran is that basically it's a literary masterpiece, and you have to have a very strong, you have to be a very, very competent scholar of the Quranic Arabic in order to understand the Quran. And to understand the Quran through the Quran, unless this linguistic approach, this textual approach is adopted, we are bound to end up in a wrong interpretation. So he stresses this, that we have to have a very profound knowledge of the Quranic Arabic. And Ustaz Hamiduddin Farahi was a profound scholar of Quranic Arabic. He was actually very well versed in the Arabic of those times. We find poetic anthologies of ancient poets, of classical Arabic poets, that he used to consult a lot and read a lot. And he had the flair of that original classical Arabic language. And as a result, he has actually produced some phenomenal research on some of the difficult verses and aspects of the Quran. And one of them is this Surah Kausar, especially the word Kausar which occurs in it. And the way he actually proceeds is what I would like to introduce to you. And of course, his tafsir, his explanation is available in the Urdu language. And my dear friend Tariq Mahmood Hashmi has translated parts of his works, Farai's works, the surahs especially, into the English language as well. So our English and Urdu readers can look it up. Originally, the tafsir is in Arabic, so the Arab readers can directly read it. And all this material is available, or at least most of it, at hamiduddinfarahi.org, and you can download it and read it. And I do impress upon you that if you are a serious student of the Quran, then this is one area in which you will really relish and cherish, of course, that how at times it is difficult to understand a Quranic word, and how easy it becomes to understand a difficult word if a scholar of the stature of Farahi explains the linguistic aspects. So, first of all, the point that needs to be understood is that the verse starts off by the verse, the surah starts off by the verse, Inna a'atayna kal kausar. O Prophet, we have blessed you with the Kausar. So the first thing is that the past tense is used here, and for an event which is to take place in the future. So whatever is Kausar, which we're just going to find out, is something about which the Almighty is saying that we have given it to you, we have blessed it to you. And it is known, and all the Mufassirun agree upon this, that this is something which is going to take place in the future. So there is this linguistic principle of Arabic language in which if something is going to happen in the future and the happening of that thing is certain, then it is actually stated in the past tense, because this shows how certain it is, as if it has already happened. So in God's scheme, it is as if it has already been accomplished. So this is the first thing that we have to note in this interpretation. And then, of course, comes the main problem or the main issue, and that is what exactly is meant by the word Kausar. What exactly is the Almighty implying? Now, it is known that the word Kausar is an adjective. It's an extensive form, which means the intensive form, which is the mubalagha, exaggerated form. And this, of course, is a adjective. And as being an adjective of the exaggerated form, Ustaz Farahi says that the approach is the same as one would adopt for any word which is an adjective. So either it is an adjective in its general sense, and in that case it would mean that everything which is good is implied here, because everything which is in vast numbers. So Kausar is actually exaggerated form of kasra, which means something which is in large numbers. So it would mean that every good thing which is in large numbers, O Prophet, we have given it to you. So this is the first option, that we actually take the word Kawthar in its general connotation and implying everything, implying an abundance of everything which is good. So the second interpretation could be that the word Kawthar, again, it's an adjective, exaggerated adjective, a mubalagha, and it can refer to a noun, because it happens in Arabic, but at times adjectives, they actually qualify a certain noun. And thus, for example, on this basis, there are narratives which say that the word Kawthar actually refers to the fountain of Kawthar, which will be given to the Prophet in the hereafter, and it is this which is generally implied here. And a lot of people actually take this interpretation that, oh Prophet, we have given you the fountain of Kawthar. And as I said, because the past tense is used here, it is as if something has already happened. The certainty of a future event is expressed in the past tense as well. And then there's a third option, and that is that the word Kawthar is actually is an adjective of a suppressed noun. This also happens in Arabic, that at times the noun is suppressed, but the adjective is so common for that noun that as soon as you mention that adjective, that noun comes to your mind. This is a very famous example, a very clear example of this is Zariyat in Surah Zariyat, when it says was Zariyat, which means those which blow away dust. Now, those which blow away dust immediately refers to the winds. So, although the word is that winds which blow away dust, ar-riyah zariyat, but the word ar-riyah, which is the noun, is not mentioned here. It is suppressed. And as soon as you mention the zariyat, which means something which blows away the dust, you are immediately transferred to the noun, and that is the wind. So, at times when you mention an adjective, such is that proximity of that adjective being used for a noun, that if you suppress the noun, that adjective is substituted for the noun, and your mind is instantly transferred to that. But we can clearly see that this third case is not the case here, at least, because there is no such noun when we mention the word Kawthar, or the sifat of Kawthar, or the adjective of Kawthar, that our mind should immediately get transferred to that. So he says that there are three options, but in the very first instance, the third option is ruled out, because there is no such noun for which this adjective has become so rampant that it actually takes its place. So the only option is that either it should be considered to be a noun, and it is originally an adjective, but it qualifies something towards which is a noun. It's transferred to a noun, and the other option, of course, which is the first option, that it should be kept in its general connotation of good in abundance. So, of course, this is the start of the surah. So Farahi says that we have to move on in the surah and see how the next verses point to a certain explicit noun which is implied by the word Kawthar. So the second thing he says is that look at the next verse, which is فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ can have two aspects. There could be two stresses. One is that the stress is on the verb. So basically it is فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ, meaning pray for your Lord, and وَانْحَرْ, sacrifice, do your sacrifice. So pray and sacrifice. So the stress is on the verbs. And the second is that the stress is actually on لِرَبِّكَ, which would mean pray for your Lord, offer sacrifice for your Lord. So in other words, it is لِرَبِّكَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ فَاصْبِرْ. It is for your Lord that you should offer sacrifice, not for anyone else. It is for your Lord that you should pray, not for anyone else. So he says that there is a clue in this, but as we move on, he goes on to say that there is only one place on earth in which this salle, which means to pray, and wanhar, which means to offer sacrifice, is united. It's found parallel at one place, and that is the Baytullah. It is here that we find that we do sacrifice, of course, and it is here that we pray, of course. So the prayer and the sacrifice become absolutely next to each other. He says that generally the word prayer, whenever it comes in the Quran, it is mentioned with zakat or infaq. So aqimus salata wa atu zakat. It is only here, or maybe at one more place, in which it occurs adjacent to qurbani. It occurs adjacent to sacrifice. It occurs adjacent to animal slaughter. And he says that this is a very clear indication that actually it is referred to being, the Kausar being referred to here is Baytullah. And a further thing in favor of this interpretation is that the Baytullah, of course, was had a lot of idols in it, and people used to worship those idols. And so it is actually said that, O Prophet, we have given you the custodianship of this Baytullah. Once you are its custodians, pray only for God and offer sacrifice only for God and not for the idols which are placed there. So the stress is for Lirabbika. And this again is a very clear sign that here the sacrifice part and the prayer part, as well as the part, the stress is on the word Lirabbika. It is clearly pointing to the fact that the word Kausar is referring to a noun, and it is here that Imam Farai says, or Ustaz Farai says, that the noun being referred to here is actually the Baytullah. And here it is what is being told to the Prophet is that he is being given the custodianship of the Baytullah. And then he actually offers further arguments in support of this derivation. He says, look at the last verse. It says, Inna shaniyaka huwal abtar. Now, if we place this verse in the whole group or the chapter in which this occurs, we find that the real struggle between the forces of good and evil was for the Baytullah. The Quraysh were the custodians of the Baytullah, and their real leader was Abu Lahab, and gradually his name is unfolded as we go on Surah Kausar, and a little couple of surahs down we find Surah Lahab, in which it is mentioned Tabbat yada Abi Lahabin wa tab, in which the destruction of Abu Lahab is ordered. So basically it is the custodianship of the Baytullah regarding which the struggle between Muslims and the Mushrikun was taking place, and the real enemy of the Prophet was by Abu Lahab, who was actually unfolded in the later surahs, but he is just referred to here and the Prophet is given this assurance that although his enemies say that his dawah and his preaching mission shall perish and shall not succeed, on the contrary, it is his enemies who are going to actually find themselves totally uprooted, and his enemy Abu Lahab is going to be end up totally in failure in this land. So when Ustaz Farai says that when we gather all these indications, it becomes very clear to him that what is being said here is that the Prophet is being emphatically told that he is going to be given the custodianship of this Baytullah, which in other words would mean that these mushrikun, these pagans of Mecca, they shall be humbled one day. So this is like a prediction and also a glad tiding given to the Prophet. Remember, the time in which this surah was revealed was a time in which Muslims were really persecuted in Mecca, and of course this assurance was given to the Prophet that don't you worry, because God has decided that in future this custodianship is going to land with you, and when it does land with you, then you have to offer sacrifice in the Baytullah and the prayer only for the Prophet, and devote yourself for the Prophet, and don't worry if your enemies make fun of you that you are going to be uprooted from the land. No, it is not you, it is they who are going to be uprooted. And gradually, as we see, the name of Abu Lahab is also then uncovered and unveiled in one of the later surahs. So this is a very brief summary which I have presented regarding Ustaz Farahi's interpretation, and he says that precisely this Kausar, which appears in the form of Baytullah, will be given to the Prophet in the hereafter in the form of the fountain of Kausar. So this will be something which will transform it's like saying that one is the real and the other is the metaphor. So this will appear to the Prophet or be given to the Prophet in the hereafter in the form of the fountain of Kausar. However, the relevance and the importance of the word Kausar here has to be understood, that it refers to the Baytullah, and because the struggle between Islam and the Mushrikun was for the Baytullah, these are glad tidings being given to the Prophet to assure him that one day he's going to be the custodian, not these unworthy people. And for this, when he receives this, when he actually receives the custodianship of the Baytullah, then he must purely pray and offer sacrifice for the Almighty, and he should not worry that these enemies who are now making fun of him and getting the better of the Muslims, they shall stand uprooted. So I would, as I said, invite you to please look up the tafsir of Ustaz Farahi. It has presented a new angle. It in fact tells us that this is the real the cause of struggle between Muslims and the Mushrikun, and these in fact constitute this surah actually constitutes glad tidings to the Prophet and his companions. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.